The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
This is the Anime Roundtable Canada, presented by Anime North. You can contact us via email animeroundtable@gmail.com, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Anime Roundtable, and on the web, animeroundtable.com. How long has it been since we've done a regular episode?
Probably a month.
More than a month. Probably closer to a month and a half. I'm beginning to think. Like, I mean, right now I have to look this up, so I will, because
I heard you guys got together for a recording that you just released recently.
Well, that's the funny part. Okay, last episode was episode 79 on February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. So on this Friday evening, March the 24th, 2023, this is episode 80 of version 2. Congratulations, guys. Thanks for doing the journey for at least the last 60 plus episodes.
You're officially past version 1 in terms of regular episode count now?
Regular in terms of just sheer recordings, I guess. Right?
Or just like numbered episodes?
Oh, I think we got into the 70s, right?
It was late 70s. I want to say it was 78 or even 79 or 77 or whatever.
76 is the one number that comes up to me, but okay.
Like I should be looking at Spotify right now, if anything.
We could look it up. We could look that up later. And then what else? What else have we recorded? Yeah, and then we've done 2 Space Eaters. I broke your train of thought there, James. What did you say?
No, I was just saying slowly but surely, right? To get up the number of episodes.
Well, yeah. Well, so we have the gang all here. Mike Nicholas sitting at 6 points. We're all online again, by the way, in the StreamYard studio. James Austin, Mohammed Shamarki, Kevin Ng, Amy Lynn Gregg. So it's just nice to have all 5 of us around the table again, just to catch up. Because as I said, it's been about a month and a half since last episode. Although who did last episode with us too? I'm just now I have to look that part up. Good Lord.
I think it was myself, you, Kevin.
Well, all 5 of us were around the table for episode 79 as well.
Yeah, no, I thought so.
Good. I'd say right now, do James and Amy have anything to say about the Space Eater chat that we did 10 days ago? But the March 14th episode, or the March 14th Space Eater chat, only went up earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, you put it up, I think, as of this recording, maybe in the last 3 hours, Mike.
Yes. Well,
so I guess what you're trying to say, was there too much St. Patrick's Day partying from you guys?
Well, I admit I'm suffering from some sort of. Well, I'm recovering from something. I'm not sure it's a hangover.
I was never much of a drinker because I don't like not being in control of my own body.
Yeah.
Because you usually need some sort of balance to achieve a good buzz. And I've only ever had that good buzz once.
I'm sorry.
I've never been able to replicate it.
I've only had just a headache and then thrown up.
Yeah, I usually will just throw up very quickly.
No, that's me. I can't.
If I do get drunk, and then after I puke, I'm just okay, and then I actually prefer it that way.
I cannot hold my liquor. I don't even try anymore.
And
And
I really don't. Yeah, I don't like it when I feel nauseous like that. And thankfully, those few instances where that's happened have usually been in someone's house, not out in public.
well, good for you. I can't say that's the same for myself.
Well, I figure they can provide some green, non-alcoholic stuff because what was it? McDonald's keeps on talking to people about what the Shamrock Shakes or whatever it is.
On the topic of things that could potentially make you puke.
And the other thing too is, depending on what type of alcohol it is, nowadays, if what will happen is within a few hours, my nose will start getting plugged and it'll generate mucus. So I don't know if that's like a gluten intolerance or if it's something else, but that's usually one more reason for me to not drink too much either.
No, that's fine.
And honestly, I'd rather spend that money on alcohol towards like another appetizer or something.
Something that actually does make you feel good afterwards.
But I will
At least
say,
in the
like,
immediate run.
but I will say, I've had good whiskey in the past, and oh yeah, that it's like now that I know those subtleties, it's like I don't think I can ever go back to certain brands.
Cool. As I
But
said, it may be never to be my thing.
and that's
To
all good.
to answer your question, I got about 20 minutes into the space heater before the most recent one because I use the website to listen usually.
Oh yeah, and I don't update. Yeah.
Because for the most part, or at least after this past year, it felt kind of like nepotism or weird to have like Anime Roundtable as my top podcast on Spotify. So I'm trying
Wow.
to not listen to it on Spotify. So it's so my top podcast isn't one that I'm featured on sometimes.
Okay, remind me. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm also guilty of that. I haven't updated the website.
The first 20 minutes were mostly about seeing the movies in Mississauga or Oakville. There was a lot spent on the Oakville border.
Oh, you guys had said
Yeah,
you were
when we
gonna
went
see
to
a
see
movie,
Douglas.
so is
When we
it
went to see
easy
Douglas.
to see a movie now, or it's still difficult and more expensive?
Yeah, well, I don't know what to add to the whole Kaguya-sama thing now, right?
So I guess the real question is, are we going to get together and go and see Makoto Shinkai's new movie next month?
Oh, it's next month?
Yep,
April,
next month.
Yeah, what is it? What was the date? 14th? Was it the 14th?
Correct.
April
That's
14th.
what they were saying yesterday. They talked about the dub, and they said in North America, Crunchyroll was going to send it out on the 14th, but since they have to deal through Cineplex, it might be a tiny bit later. You never know how it goes with those things, right? But maybe it's like the One Piece and some of those other ones they've been doing recently where it's more of a general release instead of an event release.
Well, yeah.
Which is smarter too, right? And get more people in there.
This one I'm confident in. That'll do fine. Okay. Well, I don't know what else to add to the first space heater we did. That was so long ago now.
I guess, were you talking about the award shows too, since you had mentioned that before? I remember.
Do you want to go through that just quickly? Because we did mention the nominees some episodes ago, back in January.
The anime. I thought I was going to say it was Oscar season, wasn't it? So were you talking about those awards or no?
We did talk, then we talked at length about
it was a respectable show, right? No shenanigans, right?
No, not really.
No one punched or slapped anybody.
Nobody got
to my knowledge.
Some really heartfelt speeches. I mean, I think Kihui Kwan has gone viral again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty safe.
Good for
Chris
him.
Rock had his live special on Netflix, which was interesting on a number of levels. It's kind of like come full circle, right? How they said we're going to cut the cable. Now we're back to cable because Netflix is doing live events like that.
Yeah, and you're getting some very, very across the board thoughts on it. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, that one, it was a very, as you said, it wasn't just about the Oscars. Chris Rock was talking about a lot of things, but it was a very Chris Rock show and stuff like that. And he did it his way, and it sounds like it was quite a thing to watch.
It's interesting how you look at certain articles that comment on how seemingly unhinged Will Smith's family is, and who knows what's true and what's not, but it you can't help but wonder sometimes. And how like the one normal, air quotes, normal person is the one son from his first marriage,
who basically keeps a very, very low profile.
Yes.
That I could gather. Yeah. Probably just as well, too.
Actually, thinking of the Oscars, I never took note. Did they actually finish it on time?
I was at work, so I couldn't tell you.
Does Mo know?
No, it went long, but I think they did it on purpose, where they were talking about how just we'll give everyone an award. We'll display all the minor awards. We need to know who won in makeup and who's done best.
They didn't do the sad orchestra music to kick them off.
They tried, but then there's some of these are kind of big names. You don't want to do that, right? It's weird. I mean, I like the Oscars because I like award shows, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Okay.
The important thing is Disney didn't win animation.
That was interesting. So I still haven't seen Del Toro's Pinocchio, so I'm intrigued to see how that is.
I can't say.
Did any of you watch that one or no?
Yeah,
I haven't. No,
I haven't.
It's amazing. It's stop motion. It is definitely a different take on the story. If you think to children's book versions, or especially the Disney version, it is drastically different. Like it follows the beats of the, I guess you could call it the fairy tale, or the fable, whatever classification the original Pinocchio is. But it takes things in both a more realistic and a more sort of surreal supernatural direction. So instead of like the blue fairy character is more of a almost religious looking figure. Like it's still humanoid, but it takes beats from biblically accurate angels. Like it has multiple eyes all over it. There is an equivalent to the blue fairy, which is death. So it's this sort of Sphinx-like character, but it takes place in a very specific year, and there are certain characters and political movements and political figures that cameo in the film and are fairly important plot points, which I was not expecting, and it makes for a little dramatic undercurrent, as along with the sort of excellent animation that is very Del Toro in style. Guillermo del Toro has that sort of known for the Pan's Labyrinth, spooky monster, horror type of things, and it definitely does play into that to some degree. A lot more talk of death, as he is one to do as well. But it comes together really well. Like it's enjoyable. I wouldn't call it a kids movie. I'm sure some kids would enjoy it, especially if they can get around spooky puppets, spinning their heads around and enjoying the sensation of being on fire and all these sorts of things. But it's a triumph. I mean, I think I sound like a movie review, but saying triumph of animation like it is, it's up there with like the Leica productions as far as animation stuff. I think I like Leica's style a little bit more when it comes to stop motion, but it's just as beautiful in different stylistic ways.
Don't know what to add because
that's a strong endorsement.
But it sounds like nice endorsement.
And like for completely different reasons, Puss in Boots was great too. Like I
Yeah,
I
Well, I
would
know a
have
lot of people were hoping for Puss in Boots, right? And it was
yeah.
incredible that it got nominated, right? So
yeah, I
And
heard it was pretty competent.
like artistically Pinocchio was, probably the right choice, but Puss in Boots, which I guess is Puss in Boots 2, it was a surprisingly like good movie. It was heartfelt. It had, some intense moments. The animation definitely aping a little bit off of Into the Spider-Verse, but um, not completely. Just playing around with, animating on every other frames in certain scenes to, make certain action scenes flow differently. Um, yeah, for like, if you're talking about, sort of like the CGI kids movie, it sort of blends that with something a little bit more ambitious, and makes something really impressive for, in kind of a more extreme way. When Kung Fu Panda came out, I think people had incredibly low expectations, and it presented something fairly heartfelt and interesting. And Puss in Boots 2 kind of, I think it's called The Last Wish. It does that even more so. Like, the expectations of something in a Shrek franchise movie, it, does quite a lot, well.
As I said, just I can't say I've kept up. It's just life for me. That's the thing. It's the reason we haven't done anything lately here, right?
Well, Dreamcast has always been capable of making good films in their animation department. It's just, I wouldn't say it's not consistent. It just seems like every so often, yeah, like one just really hits hard. Like I think of the original Shrek.
Just
for
so you know,
instance.
you said Dreamcast, which is amazing.
I didn't want to say it, but hey.
DreamWorks.
Dreamcast had some animation, technically.
Yeah.
I love
But
Sonic
I
Adventure.
guess
I
we'll
wouldn't
find out.
praise its animation.
Power Stone, Crazy Taxi.
Well, don't worry. It's
like the
like
former
we'll talk about
GameStop employee.
Nintendo animation next month, right? Even
Oh,
though
yeah.
it's Illumitoon doing all the heavy work for Mario.
Okay. Well, what else well, I guess since we're talking awards as well, now let's get it into the anime talk. Crunchyroll Awards did happen. When was it again? Exactly? It was in early March, right?
Yeah, it was early
Correct.
March.
Yeah, it was in Japan, and obviously they streamed it worldwide, and they had, I guess, some announcements as well and stuff like that. But it was March 4th is when it happened, and the winners are kind of what you would expect. It's basically the big series and stuff like that. I guess for some, if they want to say they're surprised, maybe Anime of the Year, because it went to Cyberpunk Edge Runners as the winner, which obviously they never had anything to do with. That was from Netflix, but probably a lot of people said well deserved on that. And then other ones like Best Film went to Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, and Best Director went to the person that did the Demon Slayer Entertainment District arc, and a lot of the others, like the odd one though, I say, and we talked about how you put things in odd categories, right? Like Best Comedy winner was Spy Family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that different people could say different things, whether they felt it was more comedy or more action, right?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't
Like-
watched it
But
yet. So.
for you, Mike, you could at least say Best Romance went to Kaguya-sama Love is War, ultra romantic, right?
Yeah, no
So,
surprise. Yeah, in many respects, maybe I'm not surprised, but there's a bias there.
and then continuing series, I guess, no surprise, One Piece, because One Piece is a juggernaut. Like there is some, I guess, fan
When
interaction,
will it
right? So I think that
end?
plays into it, right?
When will it end? Okay.
Well, the question is, if you're a new anime fan, should you start it? Because
Oh,
some
What?
people have mentioned this is a great one to start on.
What, One Piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't
Why
that
not?
the $1 million question?
There's a reason why it's running so long.
And there's a reason
It has a great story.
it's
If
going to be
you
a
can
long
get
time.
past the cartoonish art, because that's not everyone's jam. If you can get past it, it's a great franchise to experience. It
I
really
think
is.
it's like you have to, I guess, set up chunks you want to watch, right? And then maybe certain ones you can stop and not watch, like recap episodes or things of that nature, I guess.
See, it honestly is a lot easier to get into it through the manga. I knew people back in the day who would basically in 1 week catch up to One Piece at that time. So at that time, I want to say it was when Thriller Bark or Water 7 or Impel Down was still fresher and was more current at the time. So it was easier back then because it was maybe only 500 or so chapters versus the over 1,000 chapters we have now. But yeah, going the anime route would take considerably longer because you have some filler arcs, but they're usually not that fillery. It's more so just them animating the like side story panels that happen in between certain uh, volumes and chapters. But eventually you do get to the point where the anime slows down in that they only adapt one chapter per episode, so you get the full 4-minute opening sequence, you get 8 to 10 minutes of recap of the previous episode, and then the second half is the new content. That's when it gets a little harder.
Why does that sound like why does that sound like the Demon Slayer movie? I'm sorry.
And they do this because they do not want to do filler episodes anymore. That's the impression I get, at least.
Why?
Is this a good thing?
Hard to say, but I guess it is a better thing because with how long some of these arcs get now, it's hard to slot in filler.
Okay.
Why start the One Piece anime now when the Netflix live action is just on the horizon?
See, that's the interesting part. Okay.
Mm.
No, I think that's actually an interesting point to bring up. But I can only speak to this on a personal level and ultimately anecdotally, because that's how I learned a little enough or the basics of the Bleach story by watching the live action. And it made me respect it. I'm not totally sure I'd watch how much more I'd give myself time to watch.
The Netflix movie?
Yeah. That Netflix live action a couple of years back.
That kind of covers the basics.
Yeah, and that's just a start.
See, those first 16 episodes of Bleach were such a vibe back then. It had so much.
And we're talking
How do
the
I put
anime,
this?
right?
It was so cool. Like Bleach was so cool early on.
It becomes several different shows, or series if you look at or chapters, I guess, or if you're looking at the comic. But I love that that sort of Earth arc of Bleach at the beginning. Like it has that Shaman King Yu Yu Hakusho, again, more first couple episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho, like energy to it where you're in this sort of semi-urban part of Tokyo. I think Bleach is specifically Kamakura. And there's the supernatural elements, but they're sort of mysterious and sort of in the background. And once you get to Soul Society, it is a very different energy.
Okay.
And I hate how they never truly went back to that.
They tried with some of the filler, but yeah, it never becomes the same. But it's a shame because
Yeah.
I like some of Ichigo's like non-supernatural friends, like, and
Yeah.
Don Kanoji, like
Oh, I miss him.
there's some fun things in that sort of Earth side of things that isn't really covered. Like a lot of Chad or Sato's backstory on the Earth side of things. I think it resonates a lot more when you're in Japan versus when you're in, Afterlife Japan.
And I always felt like Totsuki's character was never really utilized after that first arc either. I felt like she could have been utilized a lot better.
It was set up and nothing happened.
Hmm.
So Kevin, regarding One Piece, I read a fair chapters when the big Shonen Jump magazines were still coming out. So like
Yes.
I'm actually fairly familiar with the material that the Netflix's first season is supposed to cover. Um,
Hmm.
but do you think like going from episode 1 to the end of Arlong is going to make sense for 10 episodes? Like, is that
Ooh,
possible? Because
ooh,
they
that's rough.
because they've confirmed that's what it's going to be. Like, I think they've cast Arlong and everything. So it's going from
Interesting.
episode 1 to the end of Arlong, and I feel that like from what little I remember, they'll need to cut quite a bit or really
Yeah.
awkwardly merge things in order
Mhm.
to make that work.
See, I do feel like Arlong would be the ideal stopping point, at least in terms of plot progression, because the Arlong Park arc is the first instance where you truly feel how emotionally impactful One Piece can be because of what happens to Nami during that arc. And not to say that Sanji's uh, introduction wasn't like wasn't impactful at all. Like it is to some degree, but Nami's you really feel it with Nami's uh circumstances in that arc. And I have always told people if you don't feel anything by the end of that arc, then yes, drop One Piece.
Hmm. As I said, don't know what to say.
So
So, and
I
well, move
sort
on.
of read up to Arlong when I was reading, and then I completely, avoided One Piece for years. My only exposure to kind of like what I'll call the middle section is I watched a Bon Jovi AMV that showed the crocodile fight. But I went into like years and years later, like just maybe 4 years ago, watched I'd say most of Water 7, and I still enjoyed that.
Mm,
Like I didn't feel like I was missing too much. Um
yes.
so I'm at least I think there are things you probably can skip. But I think it helps if you probably have a guide who knows One Piece to help along that way.
Yeah. See, Water 7 is an excellent arc. I would say it's arguably the best arc at that point. And then, but people will, like, those who were able to make it to the Impel Down arc, oh, that is when people will say that is peak One Piece. Because, how do I put this? A big event happens that, and it's something that didn't really happen up until that point. So when it did, like, people reacted. Like, fans were just floored with the events that took place by the end of that arc, and this was also right before the time skip happens in One Piece as well. So,
So for Arlong Park, you mentioned how it's impactful. Do you think it will be impactful if it's 2 or 3 episodes at most? Because I'm thinking if it's 10 episodes, um, like that first episode might be more than the Zoro introduction then.
mhm.
Because I was already like struggling when I knew that the new Shaman King anime was going to be 52 episodes long.
Yeah, that was disappointing to hear when I knew it was only going to be that long.
And knowing that One Piece is trying to go even more condensed, I'm like, what are they going to skip? What are they going to like try to combine? Because even I wouldn't call myself a One Piece fan, but I still I was in the zeitgeist when it was coming out,
Mhm.
and I know these arcs probably better than any of them. It's like that's a lot of content for 10 episodes, even if they end up being 40 minutes.
Yeah, like 'cause I'm assuming it's going to be a standard like yeah, 40 to 50 minute length episode because you have to cover I would assume you have to cover episode 1. And then because, Sanji, Zoro, and Usopp are all there, so you have to cover those two. So, like, do they cut out Mihawk? Like,
Mihawk has been cast, so in
okay.
some ways, no. I'm guessing Sanji's arc will be 1 episode. Same with Usopp.
They'd
Like,
have
I
to
think
really
you can.
cut down on Sanji's arc, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, we'll see. Well, when does the One Piece live action come out?
Like, do they cut? Was it next month? You said, Amy?
I don't think it's that soon. I think maybe June. I forget.
Okay.
Wait, are we talking the Netflix one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not for like a while. I thought it was like fall winter type deal.
Really?
No.
Really?
I mean, there's no trailer. I mean, then again, it's Netflix. They like to spring stuff on us.
It's like they'll probably need to cut out a decent amount of expository backstory in terms of showing Usopp's backstory and showing Zoro's backstory. Like, or maybe they cut out like Buggy and Alvida. I don't know.
You can't cut Buggy. Literally, well, you can cut Buggy. That's his thing. But so Google tells me One Piece is just 2023. We don't know anything else aside from
Actually,
that.
yeah, because Buggy does linger around later on in One Piece.
I like your optimism that Netflix One Piece will last longer than a season.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna have to not be as mediocre as Story Mode, Cowboy Bebop, but
Well, and that'll be the comparison.
Well, think of it this way: they got to build the ship for One Piece. They probably want to use that for more than one season.
I mean, you would think that, right?
you mean they wouldn't CGI it? Okay.
Oh yeah,
No,
they're doing a lot of practical stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, I guess Oda was like, well, Oda was more hands-on apparently, so it's not.
I mean, but
too
to be
surprising.
fair, do we really know how hands-on he was? I mean, he's saying he's hands-on, but like,
Yeah,
could they be
Well, yeah,
closer?
then
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like well, yeah. Okay. Well, and of course, we're going to find out soon, or within 2023. Okay, we should move on though, because
Actually, did Mo want to say anything on? And we were talking about the winners of the Crunchyroll Awards. Most of the big ones won, like
Oh,
we
yeah,
said. But we
okay, well-
said one of the ones. Remember, you had talked about it. It was the one that won Anime of the Year. The one non Crunchyroll one, Cyberpunk Edge Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
well,
that 5 times
okay,
fast.
you want to say something, Mo, and then I'll give a thought, or maybe not. I will say I'm stuck at the end of episode 8 now, so I'm 2 episodes away from finishing it. Like it's been a slow burn watching the odd episode here and there, and maybe I should probably be more consistent, as with most things in life concerning me right now.
I mean, I like that it won. I think it's good for the industry that shows of that nature win awards, as opposed to, I don't know. It's like the opposite of the Oscars. You know, it's like whatever's most popular wins, not just whatever is critically acclaimed. I guess.
But
Because we're talking like it's not the best anime movie, but it's pretty good.
in terms like Cyberpunk,
yeah.
And it was a cross promo with a video game
Video
that
game. I think that's-
unfortunately had its moments, right? Trying to launch off the ground.
It's always good to have like another in the list of good anime adaptations of video games. Not many of those.
Well, it wasn't an adaptation per se. It was more of its own thing, so to speak.
It's set in the universe,
In the world. You know what I mean?
right?
Which is a
Point taken.
tabletop setting, so
No, well, that's the thing. That's a good, interesting term to use. Tabletop setting.
no, it's an adaptation of an RPG system.
Yeah, okay. I was interpreting it in another form, but yes, you're right. It's an interesting watch. It's certainly not for kids, but it's an interesting watch. That's as much as I can say. But let me finish it, and then maybe I can say a little more. And try and catch up on a whole little bit.
How far are you?
2 episodes away, so 9 and 10 to watch.
The big finale.
Yeah. So let's take a look at
I
that.
guess one thing We could
And-
say, Mike, since we said they had announcements there, the one I think that caught our attention too, which was a small thing, was Crunchyroll actually adding music videos and concerts, live
It's-
concerts to their catalog now after so many years, and they're licensing from themselves because it's from Sony Music Entertainment and
Which
going
has
after.
which just has you wondering. There's a part of you that says, "What took so long?" And another part that said, "Oh yeah, what took so long?"
Maybe someone died. Kind of like how once Mr. Johnny died, it wasn't as hard to license stuff from Johnny's.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Well, the thing is, it's weird because we've had this talk in the past about the use of Sony flexing its catalog, its music catalog into the soundtracks of the animes it produced with Aniplex and the studio that they had before under its other names. We talked about that, how in many respects it probably started to come to age, or really maybe coming of age when Kenshin had with Kenshin, and how its artists at the time integrated into its soundtrack, and then it started, and that trend just kept going and going and going. So this feels like a natural thing to have done. It's just we never really all thought about it, that this would probably happen, right? We never thought it could happen, but we've been looking at all the other types of things Sony can do to leverage Crunchyroll and with its other branches, its other pillars. We're still waiting to see ultimately how this will affect PlayStation, like how it'll tangibly affect PlayStation.
The funny thing is trying to find some of the content sometimes, because supposedly they said they do have a thing where you can search under music, but it thinks it's like shows that deal with music as well. So you'll have the anime with the music videos with the live action and stuff like that. So there's still some algorithm stuff they do probably have to figure out, or if they want to make it a separate like part of Crunchyroll, kind of like they did with the manga. But who knows?
Yeah, but
then it could turn out like the manga thing where it dies on the vine, right? If they don't
we're gonna talk
keep at it.
We're gonna talk about that in a few minutes, and maybe where it's resurrecting, for better or worse. So, yeah, Crunchyroll. What else? And Sony televisions are going to integrate a Crunchyroll default option now?
Well, not default option. Just you know how they've had like the buttons and stuff like that on
the remotes,
the TVs and that. So they have like YouTube, Disney Plus, Netflix, and Amazon Prime Video. So now for the Sony Bravia, the new ones. So since it's the Sony TV, they're going to put Crunchyroll as one of the buttons. So I guess that's the cartoon button, and you hope you don't get the bad cartoons for the kids. The weird thing is, I'm looking at the controllers, and I've noticed that the last few is they've like made certain things and gotten rid of a lot of buttons. Like you can tell they're just, this is your streaming device, this isn't a normal TV. Like they got rid of all the numbers and a lot of the other things, right? So
no
it's kind of like
channels anymore. Yeah, but okay.
Because I guess no one knows how to flip through the channels, as you said, right?
I wonder how many will understand that term now.
I mean,
well,
there's Pluto
we
TV
should
now.
mention, because we had brought it up before flipping through channels. It's coming up this week, isn't it? That Teletoon is going to be no more. It's going to be Cartoon Network, I heard.
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. Go. How do you guys feel about this? Because mine is, well, I haven't kept up in years. So there isn't this feeling of upset. Maybe some nostalgia, but not really sadness.
I don't know. I think it's GameStop all over again. Like there's little bits of, I'm exaggerating to some degree, but there's little bits of Canadian identity that are, being stripped away, and I think it's sad.
Fair.
I still miss EB Games as a brand. I mean, we have Zellers back for a little while, but
I
I
guess
was going to mention that yesterday. What was it? So that was
and that's close
March
to your place,
23rd.
right?
They opened a few Zellers inside.
One of them is
the
you. One of
base.
them's close to you, right? Right,
Yeah.
James?
Aaron Mills
Aaron Mills Town
Town Center,
Yep.
and then Scarborough Town Center. And I think at some of these openings, and I've been in some of the bays now, so they have a lot of unused space. So that's probably why they were able to, in some of these stores, open Zellers inside of them. But as they said, there is no Zeller's Eatery or anything like that. But they said for day one, they had a food truck with the old Zeller's
Menu.
cafeteria or whatever you want to call it there to serve up some lunch.
So
And pretty decent prices.
Was it? I'm not sure. I didn't hear from anyone who went, so I wasn't sure how it turned out.
The main entrees are around $6 to $7.
Okay.
Not too bad in this environment at all.
Well,
But no Zeddy, huh?
I have my memories are so blurry of Zellers, to be honest.
I never dined in Zellers. It just never appealed to me as a child.
Okay.
So Teletoon definitely is, there's a nostalgia angle, but the types of programming they were showing, especially in those early days, were really different. Like you're getting, of course, a lot of obscure French Canadian things, but things like Captain Star, people always like to bring up as like, oh yeah, that existed. But of course,
About the Sinar stuff too. Think about the Sinar stuff, like they brought back Knighthood. There were some other Sinar ones that were interesting, but as you said, those cross promotions with Cyber 6 were interesting, and it didn't feel like after that you saw as many, but they were going up against YTV, the juggernaut, which was hard because YTV had most of that Nickelodeon programming from what I remember.
Yeah, and Teletoon had briefly Dragon Ball Z before YTV did. It was very bizarre as, a young person because here in Canada, we had the first arc of Dragon Ball and that's it. So we got to the end of Pilaf, and then all of a sudden, 5-10 years later, we have Goku going into space to, go to Namek. So it was very jarring, to see that happen. But yeah, there were so many little, weird things that Teletoon showed that, would have been too weird and experimental for YTV. A lot of, nice, wholesome children's programming that was still, at the same time, just a little weirder than what you would see on TVO and YTV. Of course, as time went on, it basically became, YTV's animation block too, which is unfortunate. But so, Teletoon is a shell
owners, right?
Yeah, Teletoon is a shell of its former self, but what it represented at the beginning was, pretty special.
And they did show some things. It's like they did try to do Cardcaptor Sakura, and yes, they took it in a very different direction than what it should have been shown at.
Mystic Adventure.
Yeah.
And then there were, of course, the manga and manga entertainment movies they showed like at midnight. So they showed Wings of Hanamis. They showed Ninja Scroll.
Basically,
I forget which
basically manga
they showed.
I think Macross Plus too.
They showed
Macross.
Yes,
but some of them, I remember watching those as a kid, and probably shouldn't have been watching them. But anyway, it was very interesting watching them with commercials, and then some of the commercials they had at late night for Knighthood, even those ones, like it was just kind of wild. The commercials
because they were mature. Weren't they mature commercials?
Yeah, let's put it this way: the one scene in Wings of Hamanase, which is very controversial, they cut to commercial, and it's a line, basically a sex line. You can call to whatever.
A chat
line.
to
just a chat line. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa. And thinking back on now, I'm just like, holy smokes.
It's late. That's all I can say.
See, I was not there for like the manga entertainment stuff, so no Patlabor or Macross Plus for me. Although I do remember back in 2008, they did briefly run some of the Genion ones, like Akira, like Armitage.
I hate to tell you, but that was Tech TV G4. That was not Teletoon.
Was it not?
No, it
They
was
released it on, like,
G4
live
Tech
TV?
TV. Remember, they
On the
made a big
topic
deal.
of
I don't think it aired
lines I've
though. There.
anyway.
I have to check YTV. Oh, let me check ANN.
But that's where most of it was. Like
Yeah,
Teletoon
you're
was very
right.
slim on
After
the anime pickings, but there were
Yeah, because
definitely some interesting shows. Sorry?
they only like because other than that, they only aired whatever Hasbro anime they wanted to put out. So like beat 'em on, not beat 'em on, like Bakugan and Spider Riders, and then eventually like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh did migrate over to Teletoon once Chorus bought Teletoon, and they stopped airing those on YTV because they wanted to make it more of a live actioning Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that I remember that when they expanded the channels in 97 and they had all these channels and they wanted that Canadian identity and the Canadian like focus, like this isn't your American channel, this is our own thing. And so Chum really leaned into it. They had space, they had Bravo, they had comedy, and then we had Teletoon and stuff like that. And it kind of ate away.
Which
And
was
then as we got later on when Chum sold to Bell and stuff like that, we started to lose those. And I think like Bravo is CTV drama. What was it? Space is now CTV sci-fi and stuff.
Mhm.
Like it feels so bland now and stuff like that. And they're just saying, okay, here we go. Here's the American stuff you want. And the CRTC doesn't seem to care about that, but they care about other things.
No, they did air on Teletoon.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't
I
notice.
go on the broadcaster section on ANN, and yeah, you don't see G4 Tech TV Canada on that section for those few Geneon titles.
Okay.
But I remember they did the Geneon titles, remember, for G4
No,
Tech
they
TV?
did, but those were all TV shows.
Yeah, I remember the TV show. I guess it was just the TV shows then. I thought they had done a few more.
Well, there's that. Tech TV is a bygone thing too. And who holds that now? I think Rogers held it. I think that's gone now. So, yeah, bygone era.
But I guess we
Those
knew
G4 days were
at
so
some point
good
it would
for anime.
come to pass. But I guess that means that Cartoon Network, whatever that digital thing they created, is now dead. I guess if Cartoon Network is the channel.
It's basically shuffle rebranding. I think that'll be like the current version.
Boomerang, I think I heard.
Yeah, Boomerang. I think it was the branding rule here,
Which is older cartoons and stuff like that. So the Hanna-Barbera stuff and things like that.
Mm-hmm. It's just a shuffle. But I don't know. As I said, I stopped really watching myself, so maybe I don't hold the emotional attachment as you guys do, and because I just did not watch. There was some respect, curiosity. Part of me wonders if there was a missed opportunity after the anime on the anime side, but of course,
without a doubt,
I would say so as well. Yeah, because they've brought back Toonami. It's not actually what it used to be, but they still brought back on the American side, and I don't think there's ever going to be anything like Bionics or anything like Toonami down south brought up over here. Even though obviously we have the same boom the Americans are having with anime across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
but
don't
maybe
have.
More than feel streaming is the answer, and they're like, well, they probably already have gone to Crunchyroll or they've gone to Netflix, right?
We don't have a Marco DeSantis person up here that has enough clout or enough interest in the medium to have a block like Toonami here.
We need to give it to Jesse.
Or I was gonna say, or try to make those partnerships, right? Like as they said, they made the partnerships with Crunchyroll to do Pirate Fina and a few
have
of the
Zan
others.
in Canada be a block on TV or digital TV, whatever.
That's crazy to think. It's like they probably won't do even like they did way back when, like those partnerships, like Cyber 6 between Canada and Japan, or the Canada-France partnerships.
Well, you know what? You know who might be the most interesting guy to talk to on this? Jesse himself. He is coming to Anime North.
You know what was also awesome back then? When Razor briefly aired some anime, and this was a Chum station, and You know, they got some Funimation shows. They had Trinity Blood and Basilisk and Samurai 7, and then those finished.
Basically, yeah, that sounds like Funimation stuff.
And then some of us speculated, oh, I wonder what Funimation stuff they'll get next. And then bam, they aired Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
I think, what was it? Much Music, remember, they did dabble in it too, like with Beck and stuff like that as well.
I feel
That,
like
I
I
do
always
remember.
felt like
Yes, I
if
do remember that.
And
I
funny,
always felt
thinking of,
like if oh sorry, go James.
I was just thinking of the opposite. We said the Canadianization turned into Americanization. I think the only one that didn't ring true as true was probably Much Music and stuff like that, because that kept the
Mhm.
stronger branding, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and it's
In a
still there,
way,
right?
it's still there.
It's
Not
still
obviously
there,
what it
not
was in its heyday,
just
but
much, but it's still very distinct these
A
days.
part of me still thinks that if Chum still owned Much for a little while longer, we could have possibly had Nana on TV on Much Music.
I'll nod my head and just say, if what could have been, what if, right? Well, for their part, Moses Neimer is still around, right?
Yeah, he runs Zoomer.
Yeah.
yep. And it's funny how he runs Zoomer and what that means to certain people now for other reasons, which is kind of funny. But the other thing is, the other main station he runs Vision TV, which is kind of funny itself too.
Which is, yeah.
It's
Anyway,
well, I don't know how you would describe. I guess it's like the Christian network down south, or like a more. It does do religious stuff, but I think it does
interfaith.
other
I
stuff.
think that was its mandate when it first came on in the 80s. I don't know what it's like these days.
Well, they still have faith programming on there, but then it's weird. It's like some of those ones down the states
It,
where they have
it's
to
like,
get other programming to keep them afloat, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, does that really relate to faith? Like, for example, I know my parents were watching Murder She Wrote on there a few years ago. It's like, does that relate to
Oh
faith?
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that was actually a mainstay on Vision. Is it faith or just general spirituality? I mean, just a thought.
I love
Okay.
it. It's like Angela Lansbury was starring as Jessica Fletcher finding faith in murder, huh?
Well, Zoomer does rhyme with boomer as well.
Uh,
Okay. So we've gone through a little bit of some of the stuff we've missed over the last month and a half. So let's try and fast forward a little bit. Well, is there anything else from February to early March we haven't really mentioned that might be worth bringing up right now, or do you want to get to this week?
I guess we could briefly
Hmm.
mention Sentai, maybe, because supposedly Sentai's still kicking around. Supposedly they made a deal with MBS television networks in Japan, and so they're going to have more shows hopefully in the future. So it won't be a totally Crunchyroll future and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that deal falls out, so to speak, that they get a few other shows to keep them going. And I guess AMC helped them with that. And
You
the
still
other
have,
thing I'm sure AMC noticed is the person that distributed their physical releases was Right Stuff. And you know who owns Right Stuff now, right?
so that changed.
Yeah. They basically said the end of this month, they are going to be changing their wholesale and distribution from Right Stuff to a new distributor and stuff like that. So they said Distribution Solutions, a subsidiary of Alliance Entertainment Corporation, is going to be handling all their stuff going forward. And I guess they're going to handle their store and that Right Stuff had been doing for them and stuff like that. But obviously, they don't want their main competitor controlling the steering wheel of their releases, right?
Even though I think Right Stuff will still carry their releases. If
Yeah,
memory
no,
serves me correct.
obviously they will carry their releases as per normal, and they're doing that for everything else. It was more of them controlling their actual destiny in the wholesale market and stuff like that.
Oh, well, I mean, natural progression, I guess.
The question is whether they will take over the Funimation Crunchyroll stuff, because they're still under Warner, I believe, or something like that. It was
Maybe
either
there's
Warner or
enough
Universal.
ability there too. Okay, Amy?
Oh, just as far as the last month goes, I just wanted to go on the record and say the AI anime thing looked bad. Try harder, robots. It just looked
You need
lifeless.
actual humans, right?
I mean, for some things, especially character animation, like I think it's tragic that the main use, or the main non-terrible use right now seems to be background generation, but at least there, like, I mean, it's sad on so many levels because a lot of those like more simple or more background or grunt work is how people train and learn and grow, and proliferation of AI art is going to mean that um, you know less people have the chance to hone their
Develop.
skills. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like
Um,
there's
and
And
what
it goes in, I guess, to that thing as we said that they're just doing way too many series and stuff like that. So they're just going for these easier solutions instead of taking a harder look and saying maybe we should be doing less and focus on the people, as you said, to train them up.
it's
well,
gonna self-sabotage at some point.
there's something about having a soul, isn't there?
One would hope.
I mean,
But I'm wondering, the one you were talking about, was it the one I'm thinking about, that weird Netflix thing I was hearing about?
It's not the main one I'm thinking of. I think it's a special effects team from YouTube.
Oh,
They
that
had
one. I
it
think
was
I
the
know which
one.
one. That weird
I
short or whatever, right?
Yeah, I
Oh
think
man.
was it Devil May Cry? No. What's that other Helsing Ultimate, I think, or something. But they ended up finding the series that the AI mostly copied from. So there's all these, talk of copyright, like will the Japanese team end up suing them, like all these kind of stuff. Like probably not something, probably a longer conversation, but because it was sort of recent in the last, month or two, I wanted to at least get it out there.
acknowledge it. Not something that came to mind. But yeah, that's becoming like I remember seeing all these posts from you and other friends about this type of stuff, like earlier, like a month or so ago. So yeah, and we touched on it, but never really talked at length. And this is probably the most we've talked about it since, and it's worth a longer discussion because it ain't going away, right? As we move towards the Skynet Terminator type
Well,
stuff.
I guess so. And given that a lot of the studios seem to have issues just getting series out, we see it with Pony Canyon and Aniplex, especially this season. You never know; they might look for quick fixes, right?
I mean,
Mm.
plus think about it like this: where we are currently at with AI is literally the worst we're ever gonna be, and it's only ever gonna get better.
Well, they can't beat humans yet. I can tell you that.
We sure?
They
Well,
certainly
at
can
least
at
at chess, right?
chess.
At chess. I was
Like
gonna say at
in
chess,
terms
maybe.
of chess, I think that's already been done. Okay. All right. So that's been okay. A cross section of some of the stuff we've missed. ICV2. Do we want to go manga, or should we just basically roll it into what we're about to talk about? The
Well,
developments
if
of this week.
Kevin has anything interesting he saw from that manga week, I didn't peruse it as much as I could. So
No, Kevin?
We can try and roll some of it into what we'll be talking about next, but I guess some quick things that come to mind is I saw an article talking about most efficient comic store manga properties of 2022, and it doesn't necessarily mean best sellers, but how quickly certain shops would sell through what they have. So what would actually be moving the quickest? And there was an interesting cross section of stuff. So, for example, I believe one of the big ones was Berserk.
well, that's not surprising. Some
Not
of
very
the
surprising,
Mm-hmm.
because in terms of just pure value, like in terms of like pure profit, I should say, like yep, Berserk's pretty good in that regard because
and
those are
given
like
it's Dark Horse too, and they're very big in the direct market
they're
too.
like $65 books in Canadian dollars.
And that was so those were the omnibus ones, probably in that respect,
Yes,
not
they're
the.
talking about Berserk
You get
Deluxe.
two
Okay.
and one for free. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Berserk Deluxe specifically. Also, the new Sailor Moon paperbacks.
Wonder,
that
did
are
Helsing
derived
make the
from-
list? I wonder.
No. So I'll list the 10 in order of 1 through 10.
Okay,
So
and let's go through this briefly, but I want to get, and then maybe I'll give an impression myself. But
yeah, so Berserk Deluxe is 1. Shuna's Journey number 2. It's the book by Hayao Miyazaki.
Mm.
Junji Ito stuff.
Okay.
Then Chainsaw Man 4.
Mm.
Akira number 5. So that hardcover box set, it's just selling like gangbusters for them. The Kamen Rider Classic Collection is number 6, the one put out by 7 Seas. And then Sailor Moon Nako Takuichi Edition, based off of the Eternal Edition hardcovers, but now in paperback, which makes sense because it's a lot cheaper. Kaiju number 8 is 8. Some of the Marvel manga that Viz has been putting out, 9. And number 10 is Akira Toriyama Manga Theater, that omnibus hardcover that they put out last year.
See, it's
interesting. Some of those hardcover ones are moving through too.
there's
So
like-
I guess they have
there's
maybe more money flowing through
size.
there.
Like the impression I'm looking at as you go through this list is size, name, brand recognition.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Sailor Moon is Sailor Moon. Berserk has seen, not solely, I'll stop short of saying a renaissance, but it's had attention since its creator passed
I
away.
think it's been evergreen, so I think they always had good sales in the direct market.
That's part, and maybe that's the other word I'm looking for, evergreen.
I feel like it's actually their best-selling title now across the entire catalog of Dark Horse.
I think they've mentioned that before. I'm sure Helsing will come up this year again too, because supposedly they're gonna those 3 omnibus ones. That was like a second edition for the translation, so they're gonna release Helsing all 10 volumes as individuals. I think starting in August with that translation. So some people may rather buy it in that format, right? As you said, some people don't want a bigger version; they want a regular one, I guess.
Because you'd be surprised how many people will still go into a bookstore and pay full retail for a volume 1. And it's honestly much easier for some to just buy a volume 1 than to buy a $65 hardcover. Just even in terms of just, spending money. It's easier for someone to just pick that up on a whim rather than a $65 book, because you have to know not everyone will hunt sales. Some people may be buying these as gifts, so it's just an easy pickup, and that's why I do feel like that's why I feel like Kondansha re-releasing the Eternal Edition for Sailor Moon into like a conventional paperback made a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing though with the direct market that's interesting is some of them, I'm sure they just have foot traffic that come through the door, but I think about me and Mike and probably Comic Den, and there's certain other stores, maybe like Comic Den used to be, where it's not just about foot traffic, it's about, I guess, the pre-orders, right, from the Diamond catalog, so to speak. And I wonder if some of that factors in there too. How much of that is you have your people coming in, they have a certain amount that they know are going to come in, and others that they might still get some foot traffic through the door.
Or thinking about. But it's just maybe the evolution of our consumption, which leads us to.
Are we going on to the big K? I guess.
Yeah.
Can't call them the special K.
Well, strikeout could be the word here.
Well,
okay.
Don't worry, I got good news for Kevin.
Okay. Well, earlier this week, Kondansha made their their online service, K-Manga, official in some various press releases.
And they said it's debuting, I guess, as an app.
Yeah, it'll be in the form of an app. For now, it'll be US only. But
Well-
with it, devil is always in the details, of which maybe like just the skim I've read hasn't been initial. Not too many, and I did look through Deb Aoki's piece.
But
This was leaked last week,
Yeah,
but
I
then
saw you
But then
sites
the
and
official word came this week.
I just
Yes,
wanted to know if it would
yes.
officially come out, so I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. But now that it's out there, and they
Okay.
said 400 manga series with 70 simulpub titles at launch. They talk about as well that they're going to have some K-Manga originals, and
And when we
in
say K,
K-Manga originals, they're
let's
talking
Yeah,
about
Korean
that are
manga.
yeah,
from
we have
their
to like this is like the branding just off the bat is interesting for me.
It's flawed.
Well, I know you think there's a lot of flaws.
and they have had
Look.
screenshots. It looks like Kevin and me are looking at it, and who knows? Maybe it won't be like we think, but it looks like it's some other manga apps, and we don't really enjoy it. Where it's like you're not actually paying a subscription fee or anything like that. You're paying for fake coins or subscriptions to then unlock chapters. And it's not like the Shonen Jump or Manga Plus where you have your subscription, then you're like, okay, here you go.
As I said, the Netflix moment. This isn't going to be one of those Netflix moments. Closest you have right now, seemingly, is Shonen Jump.
I'm not sure if it's like it's popular in the Asian market and they somehow think that we're going to be okay with this in other markets, and they don't realize that they may need to tailor their ideas to the market they're dealing with and stuff like that. But
well, that's the thing. This is a cultural thing.
But you know what? They could have done a better way, and I'll tell you, like, how about this, Kevin? I think this is the better model. What they could have done is we could buy our fake coins, and then we put our coins into a gacha machine, and then the gacha machine will randomly select a panel of manga from those 400 titles and so on and so forth. And if we're lucky, we might get a full chapter by the time we're 40 or maybe 50 or 70.
Well, for you, James, that's not too far away.
I guess he doesn't like that model, does he?
No, I
could do that model.
And I sense.
Well, I know you're saying that in jest, James, but
the good news is I can tell you, don't worry. Maybe we will get it in May, because who knows? Maybe Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden over the last 2 days annexed Canada into the U.S. and we're gonna get it, and we'll all be fine, right?
Yeah, okay. Take off the rose-colored glasses, please, and give them back to me.
Okay.
Who wants to clear their thoughts first?
I'll go.
Go.
So, I imagine it's somebody upstairs in Kondansha, and I'm assuming it's Kondansha, Japan, actually. Maybe not Kondansha, USA, but
I was thinking Pride Japan as well.
I think, I don't know exactly who's running this part of it. Like, I don't know how much sway Ben Applegate had in this, because I know he's still there. But I do feel like...
Forget, there's one name we see on the publisher thing, right? That's in New York, and I'm wondering what their ties to the Japanese market as well are too. You know what I mean?
It's... So the whole K-Manga, like, I get why they're doing this, because, they have that pretty little K as their new
They rebranded,
logo.
as we said, right? A couple of years ago, we saw that new logo, the new website and all that. And I think, as you were saying, and we talked about, right, Kevin, how they want to take what they've done and then roll it into this new app and stuff like that. And that's a part of the branding, I guess.
And I get that. I just feel like they knew that people could get confused, in that when people say K anything, a lot of the young kids will know K stands for Korean, K-pop, K-dramas. So people might think that it's actually going to be manhwa that are on the service and not manga. That's a possibility.
Or do you think they were leading into the positive, thinking, oh, maybe they'll think it's one thing, come take a look, and then be here to stay?
I don't know. I feel like it's somebody's ego in the Japanese side coming into play for this.
I think it's just that kicking and screaming we constantly talked about over the past couple years.
Like they're smart at Kondansha. They must have known. I'd hope they'd have known. And then
like there's that we've talked a lot about this tension, right? The Japanese way of doing these things clashing completely with what's been established into the markets they want to go into.
Yet somebody at Shueisha, had the smarts to have Manga Plus the way it is and have the Shonen Jump app the way it is, or somebody at Viz was able to convince them. Because but I will say, like, Viz has the majority of the most popular manga titles in the planet, so that comes into play too. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, we looking
And
at
I know they have also helped them
look at
in other parts of the world too,
Sure.
right? So maybe
And we
that
look
helps
at-
the conversation.
And
Kodansha doesn't have as many of those.
well, keep it once again going back to Manga Week and ICV2. One of the links you sent us this week, the top 20 manga titles, and these are individual volumes of the top 20 listed. Only one is not a Viz Media title, and that's it's Berserk Deluxe Volume 1. Everything else is a Viz Media title of some form. Various volumes of Spy Family.
They're
various
all
volumes
Shonen
of
Jump
I was going
titles.
to say all of them are probably Shonen Jump.
They
Yeah.
are
So that's
all
why
Shonen
Shonen
Jump
Jump gets its
titles.
own.
So not just Viz Media titles. Let's narrow it down even further.
But I will say, in terms of top manga franchises as of fall 2022, slightly more variety, because Berserk is actually number 1, and then Attack on Titan is number 7, and Toilet Bound Hanako-kun still hangs on there at number 9, because apparently that is their best-selling franchise at the moment for Yen Press, according to the interview with Mark De Vera at ICV2.
Okay.
And then otherwise, it's Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, Junji Ito, Jujutsu Kaisen, Spy Family, and Dragon Ball Z.
Thank you, Kevin. Take a breath.
But yeah, they talk about a lot of the stuff where they have some tiles that will be original tiles that are on their magazine pocket app and other things. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I guess the other question is, what does it mean for their physical side too? Because we saw that when they went really hard on digital and stuff like that, and some of them have lingered on the digital platform, so to speak. So what's going to happen? Will there be a pathway to physical for some of these ones that get on the app and stuff like that? And what
They
does that
actually
pathway
have
look like?
been putting out some physicals of the digital stuff over the years. Basically, the consensus that I'm seeing is, if it does well digitally, they are much more likely to put that out in a physical book. So I believe Blue Lock was one of those instances.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken. I remember PTSD Radio being digital only, and that came out physically back in the fall.
Yeah, that started to come out, but that one was one of the first ones they did so long ago. So it makes you wonder how long it took to get to those numbers. And maybe that's how they're doing their numbers, right? Too, is like if they have people and they can see by chapter what people are buying, maybe that gives them more feelings about what they're going to make physical and stuff like that. But other factors may play against it. Like maybe it's too long of a series, like Domestic Girlfriend or Space Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I know in the Clear Moonlit Dusk, a shoujo manga by Mika Yamamori was initially digital only, and a lot of the shoujo manga start off digital only now, and then that did get a physical release as well back in the fall.
Yeah.
So they have their metrics that they follow. But yes, with what you said, James, the ones that are too long will almost never come out. So Space Brothers will almost likely never come out physically. Chihaya Furu will almost never come out physically. We even doubted if Tokyo Revengers would have came out physically, but it did, just not through Kondansha, because they didn't think it was worth the risk. And they may be right after all, because fans do not like the ending of the Tokyo Revengers manga.
Yeah, as you said, there's still hope because we do still have 7th season. They've been picking up the slack from Viz and from Kodansha, so that's good. They still license out, of course, and they have
Yep.
licensed out, I think, still to Dark Horse for some of them. Not Kodansha as much anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah, Shueisha and Hakusensha have been more willing to let other companies publish the stuff that Viz doesn't put out or isn't able to put out or cannot justify putting out. Or I guess, or at the very least, they're allowing bids to happen between the companies now, because I know Oshinoko is not really that typical of a Viz Media brand kind of title, but you would have thought they would have picked that up. But Yem Press came through in the end. But who knows if maybe it's because of the existing relationship with Mango Yokoyari and Scum's Wish. Maybe that could have played into it. Who knows? But because especially with 7 Seas, they're putting out a lot of the Young Jump stuff and like the super perverted Shonen Jump stuff that Viz won't touch anymore, and so on and so forth. But going back into the Kodansha K-Manga thing, if they're going to do a coin system, I will not be paying any money to them.
I will know. I can at least attest to the idea that this could get really frustrating.
Yeah,
But
because I'm not a fan of
for
it
me.
either.
But
It still makes
but
me
not for
wonder how
me,
they figure it can work.
because I do have a quick story, because I visited my parents earlier this week. My mom had told me, well, I give my mother credits for her iTunes card so she can use the iCloud services, right? So she can use iCloud for backups and stuff. And she told me her credits had run out. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? I was considering expanding my iCloud storage, and I could share it with her and my dad. But no, she just swiped another card off of me, another iTunes card. Turns out that she's been using much of it to read digital chapters off of a Wattpad like app for her romance novels lately. Like, she's been reading chapters off of like a Wattpad like app, like that's dedicated to romance stories. And she told me that she's almost drilled through the iTunes card that I gave her this week. So it could get quite. You could end up spending quite a bit on this without realizing you've spent quite a bit on this.
I guess they are going after the whales, as they say, right?
Well, explain that one to me. Like, explain the metaphor.
Well, it's the gotcha metaphor where it's like
Oh,
they
okay.
do the small purchases and then they hope you'll keep coming back, and sometimes they'll get ones that just keep coming back.
And
go
that's
for the big
basically what
purchase.
happened here, I think, because my mom started to read a story. She got the first handful of chapters for free. She got enthralled into it, and now she wants to keep finishing it up. reading and hoping and finishing the story, assuming it's done already. So this is what could happen later on.
So I have a couple questions to pose to the rest of you.
Uh-oh.
So
At which point I'll probably have trouble answering, but
so they intend to launch this app on May 10th, 2023, and they will eventually put out a website version.
which
How
right
do you
now
put out?
which right now in Canada is all but blocked, from what I understand.
Yes.
Oh,
this
they
is
showed
a
us the
new-
blocked image too.
Yes, this is
Uh.
exclusive to the United States for the time being. But I'll ask.
Guess
I
we'll
guess
have
I
to
might as well
practice
bring
our
that up.
American, right?
It sounds asinine to me that Canada is not included at launch, because when they license these titles, it's usually assumed that when you license a title for the States, that would have covered Canada already. But
Yeah,
perhaps it
usually
really
they
isn't
bundle
the
it for
case.
physical.
It's one of those, well, it's like a lot of other things when it comes to the US and Canada when it comes
Because I
to
remember
these
a
terms.
lot of them, yeah, they always bundled us together.
And
Since
then
the beginning of
then
the century with manga and stuff like that for the English
but
speaking, and
then
then they expanded to English speaking countries. So you had US,
but
Canada,
but
UK,
specifically
Australia, New
in this
Zealand.
And what doesn't make sense is that when this stuff was on Azuki and other platforms, we had access to it. So what's
And
different
that's the
here?
weird part, is a lot of the titles, as you said, other platforms, they allowed it, so you would think the contract's already there, and it's their own content too, right?
Yeah, that's the
Well, you know
thing.
what plays into the fact of them saying, "Oh, we're trying to get all this content out at launch. We're trying to do it in the most high quality way we can." Like they had talked about high quality translations and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself back to some of the stumbling blocks we've seen, right? Where it didn't quite go that way. What was the one I'm thinking of? King. They had to retranslate the whole series. Remember?
Oh, I kind of know what you're talking
It
about, but I
was
don't
King
remember
of
the title.
something, and then but that one they had just got it out now again with the proper translation, and now they're actually trying to sue the original people that translated it for them because it was so shoddy. So it makes me
Which
wonder if they're
publisher was
trying.
this?
Sorry.
Which publisher was this?
I forget, but it was. I'll have to find it again,
Okay, I kind of do remember hearing about this.
but I know that they talked about high quality translations and stuff like that in their release and stuff like that, like officially translated high quality manga. But how do you keep that up when you're trying to do so many chapters and so many things and so many contractors, right? So it makes me wonder
By
if they're trying
severely
to get this
underpaying people.
pipeline through, right? So that
By
could be one thing.
severely underpaying people. That's how you get it done.
well, and that's the basics. I mean, that's
Or
the
AI,
economics.
as we talked about before, they'll try
AI
any
could
trick.
be they'll bring in the AI bots, but this is also the economics of the industry right now.
And so my other question as well, I'll pose to the rest of you. So this is coming out May 10th. And how do you not already have the pricing structure?
That
How do you
is
not
the
have
other
that
odd thing. No
available for
pricing,
us
right?
in your press release? We're
And
under
Or
2
less
months
than 2
away.
months, right?
talking about
Less
that,
than 2
right?
months. So,
And they've been
We're under 2 months
amazingly
away.
mum on that, haven't they? Yeah, it's
So
interesting. You think they're
because
setting themselves up for failure on this one?
so my pet theory is that they want. Here's my pet theory.
Cool. We
North
that's pretty
Kondansha USA knows that subscription is ideal, and having limited free is ideal, a la Shonen Jump and Manga Plus. But I'm thinking Kodansha in Japan doesn't want it to be like that.
so you think they're buying time to then prove to their bosses up above that this is going to be not so good. It could be a face plant.
Yeah, so by releasing that teaser screenshot of the possible earn up to points, because because we don't really know. It's a very vague image. We can only speculate, but you see enough people voicing their displeasure in having a coin system similar to Manga Up or Bookwalker that I would hope that they can show the people upstairs at Kondansha Japan that, look, we can't have it this way.
At which point, many of them will probably be fired. It's not as if they paid too much. We'll find somebody
Who
else.
knows? So
They'll
yes,
just get blamed for the failure. That's what it is. Should it fail? We all think it could, and we all think that's a possibility. It doesn't look great.
well, Kodansha's big enough that they can always fix this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but Kodansha is
Some
also,
point or another.
but it's enough of a business that it throws each other under the bus too.
So I'm hoping subscription. I think they would put out at least the latest chapter free. Although I will say I don't have a lot of confidence in that because they haven't done that yet when the simulpubs came out on the other platforms.
That's the funny part. They have, like, on all of these fronts, they have so much control, and they're not willing to really do any good with it. Well, then again, good and profitable are always different things.
And then the last thing I'm thinking of is they are going to be putting this out on the Apple Store. And we know Apple is a lot more less willing to have 18 plus or close to 18 plus content on their stuff. And that's why a lot of the mature titles from Viz are website only, like Golden Kamuy, like certain Ayakashi Triangle chapters, or Nana, or I think Fire Punch as well, actually, from Tatsuki Fujimoto. So I wonder what's going to happen there. Like, are certain
See, that
titles
is
be on
weird
the
too, because think
iPhone
of it,
version?
you're starting out as an app and then bringing the browser version later and stuff like that. So it's almost like they want the heavy hitters and then, okay, we'll just get to that other stuff later, right?
The app is the gateway, perhaps.
But funny enough, you know what it was, Kevin? It was Ranking of Kings. That's what it was that I was talking about. And that was from ebook publisher Book Live. And they had actually announced earlier this month that they had finally fixed it and got the translations that should have been done correctly the first time out. So correct translations out. And they basically were taking legal action against the original contractor, Dragon Digital Japan Co.
Okay.
Which had supposedly stole stuff from Scanlators, which is kind of crazy to think. But you know what? We were talking about other things, and we had mentioned Azuki, and I saw like earlier in the week, they had actually announced that they're not just putting and streaming manga and stuff like that. They're actually going to release ebooks. So they're moving forward in a different direction as well, starting this week. Like they said, 2 ebooks are coming out. One was My Dear Detective, Mitsuku's Case Files Volume 1, and then Turning the Tables on My Seatmate Killer Volume 1. And they were going to do Amazon, Apple Books, Bookwalker, and then Google Play. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes from streaming to actually maybe licensing some stuff to release digitally.
Yep, they've acquired the odd title here and there for licensing outright.
And they've made a good relationship with Kaiten, I believe, the one that does the Yakuza Babysitter and some other ones, but that's done well. Yeah, the Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. So
yeah. Okay. Have we said all we want to about Kondansha for now? Until May 10th, is it?
Yep, correct. Well, we'll see if they even release anything because, as Kevin said, we don't know what the pricing was. For all we know, they could give it away for free.
Oh, please don't do in-app currency. Fuck, man. Like, I've
I mean,
I played League of Legends. I know how much of a pain that shit can be.
But given all the craziness like that we've seen with all these things that could make it go wrong, it makes me wonder how many people would see this news and say, nuts to this, and they've already lost them and they're already on the 7 seas.
Because you need to not give people an excuse to pirate. And that's what Shueisha realized quickly. Because they know that they will never truly beat the Japanese scanners because they will obtain advanced copies of the magazine and then they'll upload it on the internet before the magazine even comes out in Japan.
And then now get the AI bots to translate.
So at least by having the latest 3 chapters free, you give people the incentive to actually use your service. But yeah, don't give me in-game currency, or don't give me in-app currency. That shit is bullshit. I remember with League of Legends, when I eventually did put money into the game, and I made absolutely certain to figure out what combos of currency payments for which skins I needed so that I could zero out. Because that's the thing, they make you have some sort of leftover balance, so that way you have to like put in more money.
Just a little bit, a couple bucks, just to get an even, zero out.
Yeah, that shit pisses me off.
I guess the question is, will you have enough content to actually make you think, do I actually want to pay to continue on this series, right?
And they will have a lot of stuff. They've put out a lot of digital content in the last few years.
There's the latent potential in all of that.
And they still have some of their evergreen stuff from back when Tokyo Pop had the licenses for that stuff. So like they have GTO digital right now. They do have Rave Master out digitally, and they did finally put out all of Initial D digitally as well. So,
and they did have the wine manga, of course, all out digitally, as we know.
Yeah, well, you said
not the second series,
Drops of God.
Still waiting for the second series, which I don't think they'll put out at this point. But I do feel like that was Kondansha kowtowing to Shin Kibayashi to do it, because I really don't think it made much business sense for them to translate all of it, to be honest, knowing how it went with Vertical.
Okay.
I learned what happened with Vertical in regards to Drops of God, so that didn't make any business sense to put out. As much as I love Drops of God, like, I can't imagine that having made them much money.
Oh yeah.
Well, they are making the new live action series, so you never know how that'll do.
We'll get a bit of a boost,
I
imagine.
Yes.
But I think that app coming out in May, my gut's telling me it's going to be more the recent and the more popular, in that it'll be a wait before maybe we get the classic series, unless it was, as you said, a really big evergreen.
Oh no, a lot of that stuff is already available.
No, I know, but I mean, in, I guess, whatever this app they're trying to do, send it out, you know what I mean, in that new form.
I'm sure we'll hear the reviews when it comes out. But having said all of this, sometimes there's nothing like a deal also. And remember, I know you sent me the link. I was aware of it already, James. Remember how I constantly joked about all those humble bundles that we've seen over the past couple years over the course of the pandemic series? And Kondansha once in a while puts out some very interesting humble bundles.
Yep, the Big K definitely does have a good relationship with Humble Bundle, and they do some good bundles. So they had a new one, and this one is series focused.
This one is series and serious too. They put out the entire or for the next, and this will be up. And I know that we'll have this episode up well before this Humble Bundle ends. All of Attack on Titan. All of Attack on Titan and a lot of the side stuff. Digitally, albeit. And what is it? You can get the whole series for Canadian 30, minimum 34.58. Of course, some of it, a lot of it goes to charity.
Yeah, they were doing Book Industry Charitable Foundation is the charity they're working with for this one. And it sounds like this one is going to end in 19 days and 14 hours and 40 minutes, according to the site now.
Yeah, and according to latest count, just looking on the website, it says 2,456 of these bundles have now been sold. It's the entire series. That's there. Attack on Titan Junior High, Attack on Titan No Regrets, guidebooks. There's a lot of art books. There's a lot of the side stuff in this. So it looks to be the bulk of everything published concerning the Attack on Titan franchise.
I actually think it's everything.
It is everything. And even novels, I think.
So what? 35. So less than 35 Canadian. Sure. It's just interesting that it just caught our attention. So yeah, Kondansha. Let's wait and see. K-Manga comes out in early May.
Are we going to talk about a local deal next, though? I guess by the time the show we put this up, it might be done at the end of the month.
Which local thing do you want to talk about?
The one me and you went to on Easter weekend, remember? 2019. Okay. Now we're doing, I think, Labor Day weekend.
Okay, so let's start to come back a little bit here locally. So International Fan Fest a couple weeks ago announced its next version here in Toronto and a rebranding. So it's now it'll be called Anime Toronto. It'll happen the weekend after FanExpo in the exact same area.
Well, no, exact same building, yes, but FanExpo has always been in the south side of the building for many years, and they will be in the north side.
Yeah, but FanExpo has grown enough that they've taken both sides. And on
Did
the top,
they take both sides? I can't remember. It's been so long since I've been, so they have actually finally taken the whole building, huh?
Yeah. Well, on the topic of FanExpo, there's the Comic-Con Toronto also happened last weekend. And they were strictly in the north building. Normally, that's been something they've in recent years just done the south building, and it's become a mini Fan Expo. I mean, it's Fan Expo after all. But I heard it got packed inside the north building, and talking with Lawrence, who's appeared on the show a couple times when we've done the Anime North episodes. He just said it was just packed and really hard to get around. And whatever food concessions were there ran out pretty quickly.
It makes me think of that 1 year at Fan Expo. I can't remember which year it was, but they couldn't get the south building, right? And they were in the north building.
Oh, I remember this.
And it was just similar situation, but I guess it wasn't as bad because it was so packed. I remember they had the fire officials and stuff like that. And at one point we were doing the game shows and all that stuff. And we had went out to get lunch and we almost couldn't get back in. We had to fight to get back in, say we have to be back in there because we have to actually be in a room to do these game shows. We're under contract. And it took us a while to kind of negotiate that with the on-site security staff.
Ouch. But I think we saw maybe a similar situation. I don't know.
I remember that year. I was there too. But I got my lunch early at Subway and then also went in through the doors closest to the CN Tower in the north building, and then somehow was able to get up just in time. And then, like, I don't know, maybe half an hour later, I noticed that, yes, they blocked off the elevators and then weren't letting people in.
Ouch. Yeah. So that was that's I guess a little bit of the story about Comic-Con. Like I said, a convention will always have something. AN had those long lineups. Well, So crowds were the story here. Going back to Anime Toronto, though. So they did announce it. It'll be the weekend after FanExpo. The first time this happened, the first time Anime Toronto happened, now it's called that, was the Easter weekend. I think in 2019, was it?
Yes, it was 2019. And I think it could have been announced, like, it must have been just a few months. So they had a very quick turnaround time, I remember. And because it was the first one, they did the weird pricing, remember? So I got mine really cheap. But I think the next year they did do the same as they did for this one for the early bird, which is $50. So it's $50 for the regular pass till the end of March. They have one where you can get a t-shirt and lanyard for $80, I believe, which is also discount. And then they've brought back those super passes again, but those are not discounted. I think they're like $250 or ridiculous prices where it's which you can be the front of the line for signatures and for events, which we know how that turned out. So hopefully they're better prepared this time.
Yeah, you want to punch some of the people who had them. I'm just
saying. I think it depends on the guest. I guess, is there a guest, for example, Kevin or Mike or anyone else, that you feel like you would want to push someone out of the way, that you would want to see them?
Well, they have the potential to accomplish that, and so we'll see what becomes.
And they have not announced any guests yet, so we'll see what happens.
My first reaction was the weekend after FanExpo. I'm not totally sure about this, but then I was reminded, remember the first one happened Easter weekend. So what do you make of this timing, though?
Doesn't matter to me.
I think it was whatever they could get, because I think they got more choice when they had 2020, because I think that one was July where they went for. And then this one, probably they obviously started to get the bookings in, right? Post-COVID and stuff like that. And I think they were left in a lurch, and this was maybe the best they could do. And it was the fact that they probably said, we've only done 1 year. They wanted to focus on their base in Vancouver. And then they said, okay, now we want to focus on this. And this is where the cards fell, so to speak.
And they had their flaws. Their first post-COVID, or not, their first con since COVID-19 happened.
Oh, back in Vancouver.
They had some issues.
Yeah. There were some issues there too, without a doubt. Okay.
Well, we know they'll bring the guests, I guess, but time will tell, right? I decided to throw some money and see what would happen.
Will be
I need to buy mine too, actually, because so it does not affect me, because I usually do not go to FanExpo anymore. So works for me.
Okay.
Well, I think, remember in 2019, me and Mike went for the thing, and then you just went for the concert, right, Kevin? Because I think they just had a concert ticket.
Yes, I did go at least one day. I may have gone the second too. Don't remember anymore, but a couple of my friends went just to see Megumi Nakajima perform.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the main draw for me as well. And I did get a couple of signatures because a few of the Fate Stay Night cast came
to watch a concert.
No, like they were there as guests.
Oh, well, they were there as guests.
Actors,
I mean, okay.
The Japanese
they were promoting the second movie.
Yeah, because Heavensfield just was at that point, right?
Yep, I got a few signatures myself from that. One of them I had to just sit in a line and hope I would be chosen, and somehow they just let me go ahead.
Yeah, there's some stories. We have our stories.
Yeah, I was in a line for, I believe,
and then they cherry picked people from the. It was hilarious how some of that went.
Who was I? I was there for either Saber or Rin's voice actress, and I barely made the cut.
Yeah, that's it. It's one of those things, folks. Okay. So but that's Anime Toronto, and I guess we'll talk about that before it happens. And on that note, let's talk Anime North and do our duties there. Really not much to talk about, I guess. Planning for Anime North is still coming along for its late November date. We are now confirmed, or we have been offered, and we'll likely do a couple episodes, or at least one episode there on the Saturday night. So Who's in? Who's in, guys?
What did they tell you? What day?
Oh, it sounds like it's a very much an open book. So, like, as long as it's within reason, and I'll probably be within reason.
I think it'll be the same old, right, Kevin?
Yeah, it'll probably be
right.
a lot of the same old, but we'll see how we can mix that up.
And I think since we're back on schedule, it'll be helpful compared to last year, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, looking at the, do we want to quickly talk about the guest list so far for AN? It's a
kind of weird how the website doesn't have it updated, but they've been updating through Facebook.
Mm-hmm. So a couple YouTube creators, a couple voice actors.
Well, this week was YouTube creators. Glass Reflection. I know for him, he's actually locally based, so I guess it's not a surprise that he would come. He'd probably come just by himself because I think he's Hamilton area. And then they got Mother's Basement, who he's from California and stuff like that. And then they had another one, Yazzie.
That's Girl's Basement.
I think Mother's Basement is Canadian. I think he's Vancouver.
Is he? Okay. Because I thought he was out in California, because I know he does a lot of work with Anime News Network. Obviously, he's done stuff for their previews.
He's mentioned like that, growing up with YTV and stuff, so...
Interesting, okay. Maybe
he's
to the States. Maybe I'm thinking wrong.
He's a fellow intelligently fan of the Metabots dub, which is fantastic.
Okay.
But I think they had a lot of other dub actors too and stuff like that. I think Richard Epcar is coming back and stuff like that.
Yes,
and I think some of that was that he had to leave. I remember last convention, I think he had something to take care of, right? So I think he wanted to do right by the convention and come back and meet the fans again, right?
Ellen Stern as well.
His wife as well, right?
And then Noma no Ichi has been announced. The reservations will open on April 1st. Same old there. Yeah. We're hurling 2 months away. 2 months away before Anime North.
Yeah. So the Thursday before AN, Man on a Mission is going to be performing in Toronto. So I could see them popping up in the con in some capacity.
I don't know, because I think the next day they have to be in New York to do another show.
Literally the next day? Like they're performing on Friday in New York?
Yeah, like basically they're doing a lot of shows like back to back, and just it looks like they're pumping them through the season, and then they have small breaks in between. Like they have a small break before they get to Toronto, and then they have to do these shows back to back kind of in succession. So they then do Toronto and then have to be in New York the next day almost, it feels like.
Okay.
Like next day or the next day after. But still, it's like you have to move quick.
Because my suspicion on that was because last year's musical guest, they did a thing where they performed in Toronto on Thursday, but then they did hold a panel and like a fan thing on like Friday and Saturday or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be able to do that with the way I saw that schedule for them, unfortunately. So,
okay,
but I'll take a quick look as we're talking.
Anyway, but yeah, so there's a couple thoughts for Anime North. A couple more things we want to go through before we finished off tonight. Just quickly in brief. You brought this up, James. Karyu Pamyu Pamyu got married.
Well, that was actually Kevin.
Oh, it was Kevin who brought it up. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it? Shono Hayama. And I didn't realize it when initially, but until I read the credits, he was a commentator on Terrace House. But I know he's become a well-known actor. I think he did Terrace House back in the day when he wasn't quite as well known. He's known now. Karyu Pamyu Pamyu, she was a thing back then, wasn't she? Oh, so she might still be a thing now. It's just I know she was like the it girl, roughly a decade ago. Am I safe in saying that? Roughly a decade.
She's still a thing.
She's still a thing.
It's just it's not the explosive popularity of the early 2010s, but she has stayed relevant in Japan. And has her devoted fan base.
Well, the devoted is probably the word.
And I think she's like her fashion style is what also keeps her relevant in those circles as well.
Yeah, and I can see some looking at the wedding photos. Yeah. Well,
And she did the new 3DS campaign, right? From what I remember too.
Yes.
And she had some of the what was it? The panels that they had. She had her own panels, I believe, for that in Japan.
The faceplates.
Faceplates, yes.
okay. But yeah, that's an interesting little nugget to have come out. And one final update before we go tonight. Yeah, as we're taping this, we're taping it knowing that the final final episode with Satoshi on Pokemon has just aired within the last 24 hours. And there is a quick summary, not too much in the way of spoilers, seemingly. Just a quick browse of of some of the stuff that was said about it. I think the summary is the journey for Ash continues, but we just won't be seeing it anymore. It was it was an ending without really an ending for him. Just that he just keeps going. But maybe of more interest for some people is in anticipation of the airing of that final episode, a video came out last week with the voice actress behind Satoshi, Rika Matsumoto, who's now 54, did a video in the what is it called, the One Take series or something?
Mm-hmm.
She did a video where she sung the first Pokemon anime theme song in, as the saying goes, one take. Aimed to be a Pokemon master. And she did it, and the video features her standing at a microphone with a bunch of Pokemon plushies in the background. And by all accounts, she nailed it. I watched a little bit of the video. She looked like she was really into it. And I know that that would get a lot of attention in anticipation of the episode that just aired.
You could really tell that she loves that song and really enjoys singing it. The plushies in the background, for the most part, I think 90% of them were Pokemon that Ash had caught or Satoshi had caught in the series. So there's, some, relevancy and importance there. I think that song, which shares the name of the series, like the last 11 episodes, aim to be a Pokemon master. It's such a fascinating song. I think it is seminal. I think it is an incredibly interesting composition, even like genre wise. Like it is like, it's in some ways it's in that same sort of musical zeitgeist as Cruel Angel's Thesis, where it combines, rock, pop, and weirdly gospel choir, all in one, and it's so seamless. And yeah, I think it's an incredibly impactful piece. And as far as the last episode goes, I know we're closing in on 2 hours, but you brought it up. I think that, the significance of, this series that, for almost 30 years, 26, 27 years, ending with these characters of Ash / Satoshi and his Pikachu. They had this aim to be a Pokemon Master series, which was a lot more subdued, right? Like it wasn't a bombastic thing. Spoiler warning at this point, avoid, the next, 2 to 20 minutes if you want. He doesn't fight Ho-Oh at the end or anything like that. A lot of them are reunions with different characters that he has journeyed with along the series. In the penultimate episode, it was really interesting. They canonized the 5th movie. There's an amazing OST track from the 5th movie called Search for the Girl. And this is the movie that's vaguely based on Venice. Like there's a lot of canals and sort of water sports things, and it features Latios and Latias, kind of these sky dragon Pokemon. And a Latias had been following Ash throughout this series. So the penultimate episode has that has Latios and a Latios get captured by a Team Rocket agent, and I think Team Rocket had disbanded, the previous episode. And at the end of the episode, it's a different set of Latias and Latios, but we get some shots of characters that Ash met in that 5th movie, along with that OST track from that movie, which is fairly rare for the anime series. Like, it doesn't reference the movies almost at all, including like a human character and a Latias that transforms into a human character that people pair romantically with Ash a lot. So that was a really special moment. The last episode in general was kind of somber. Misty and Brock leave pretty. I think their Japanese name are Kisumi or Kasumi and Takashi. And they leave fairly early on in the episode, and Ash, heads back to his home. So you get a lot of scenes with Professor Oak, or a couple scenes with Professor Oak and his mom and the Mr. Mime. And the main plot is, I'm not fluent in Japanese and the subs haven't come out yet, or the dub, but, Professor Oak is preparing Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur, like a new set of them to go out for trainers, and like Charmander's lost. So, Ash gets to go on a mission to help, a Charmander. Team Rocket attacks, and the most significant returning character in the series, which hasn't been seen since the sort of end of that first real season, is Ash's Pidgeot. Returns in a fairly emotional, quick,
Oh my god.
but emotional, because Team Rocket captures Pikachu in one of the electrical proof nets, but because Ash is just kind of hanging out near home, he doesn't have any of his other Pokemon with him. And of course, from the sky, Pidgeot appears and has a reunites with Ash, and
Wow.
all the Pidgeotto and Pidgeys that Pidgeot has been caring for sort of come and celebrate, with Ash as well. Gary shows up with his Umbreon to sort of help Ash and, ask him that quote from the trailer, which is, now that you're world champion, how close are you to being a Pokemon master? Which, makes Ash think like, oh, that's a good question. Tracy gets a little bit of spotlight, the replacement for Brock in the Orange Islands arc.
Nice.
He gets to have a few lines, and near the end, it's revealed that his Venonat has evolved into Venomoth. So there's, some, idea that things are always changing. Things, friends will always return. New friends will always be made. So it's not a bombastic episode, but it ends on like, that continuing journey sort of, feel, but also the question that, or the answer that Ash comes to as far as, what is a Pokemon master. It's very, cheesy and corny, but it's kind of nice. And it's, it's for him, it's to become friends with all the Pokemon that he can, or probably all of them. And the very final sort of sound that we hear in the episode is the ending theme called Type Wild, which is, as far as the endings go, as iconic as you can get. They released an English version of that song to sort of help with English education in Japan, which was interesting because, like, it includes the localized names like Pallet Town and everything. It's an excellent, like, it's so well. It's like a professional cover of the song. But
Playing in my head right now.
yeah, but they play that song at the end, which is I think really, powerful and smart because it is one of the most iconic ending themes, especially of that first season. They brought it back during the Alola arc of the season, so the Sun and Moon. It features, a Pokedex with different clips from the show, and then two shots of Ash, one running forward and one silhouetted running to the side. So they play that ending with clips from the whole season, but that original animation. So it's an incredibly thoughtful series. Japan was advertising this with this huge display in, I think, Japanese subways.
We knew about the advertising.
Yeah, it was it was impactful. This is, sort of a moment in history. Like if you think about long running series, this is, like in some ways like Mukuro-chan or Detective Conan ending. Like it doesn't have quite that pedigree, but it is still that sense of this has always been around. So many generations of children have grown up with Ash and Pikachu, Satoshi and Pikachu specifically, and now they're doing something different, which has an English trailer or English subtitle trailer already. So yeah, it's in so many ways not just the end of an era, but the end of a legacy when it comes to Satoshi / Ash and his Pikachu. There's a Captain Pikachu in the new one, but it's not the same character.
No, it's not the same. And as I said, this was just an interesting way to set up the finale. Is it nice way to go out? But yeah, that's a nice summary there, Amy. But there isn't too much else to add. I mean, as I said, you're right. We did go 2 hours, and let's just say that's
I did look up one thing though,
a month and a half.
Mike.
What's this? Before we go,
remember Kevin was asking about Man on a Mission. Well, they definitely will not be at Anime North because I looked at their schedule. So they're in Toronto at the Access Club on the 25th. The next day on the 26th, they're at New York City at Irving Palace or Irving Plaza. And then on the 28th, they're in Boston at Brighton Music Hall. So I would say probably they're booked full. Like their biggest break in between is actually between the Chicago and the Toronto show, because the Chicago show is on the 21st at House of Blues. So they're really packed in North America. Then they have a break. Then they go full force in Europe, it sounds like, in June.
It's also likely because when you tour in Canada, your merch has to be made in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a must. And I believe you need to employ Canadian staff,
I think,
for certain aspects of your tour as well.
I think I understand where you're about to go with this, but
so that's why you probably don't see as many foreign bands come in as you may expect.
Okay.
This is probably why we'll not see Mamamoo in Canada, because they are going to tour in the States.
Get your tickets, Kevin.
Yeah,
it's got to be
kind
closest,
of planning my flights, actually. I'm
the closest border point, right?
Right.
It depends on what I can manage to get ticket-wise, and then I will plan accordingly.
Well, you're good at that, Kevin.
Oh, I try. I'm not perfect.
You're still pretty good at it.
I'm kind of scared of getting the VIP stuff. I'm kind of debating that, and I normally never do, but
hey, you're not. But I know you. But you're a fan. That's a thing, and I guess
they're my favorite Korean music group.
Yep. Anyway, that's it. As I said, we've gone way over time, but that's like a month and a half. That's a month and a half. Just wanting to work itself out, and hopefully, at least with when we do our next regular episode, it won't be a month and a half. Although I could anticipate another space heater again before then. But it is it's Friday night, but it's late enough. So let's enjoy that. So that's all we have to talk about here online tonight. Once again, if you want to contact us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com, twitch.tv/animeroundtable at some point YouTube. As for the podcast side, please leave us a review if you can on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. Because good reviews might help in the algorithm and maybe get us more listeners. What type of reviews? Kevin? Or we can ask Mo the question too.
5-star reviews.
Thank you.
What does Mo think?
Yeah, what does Mo think?
I mean, five stars is good, but I think 1 stars are also good.
Yeah, well,
A star is better than no stars, right?
Yes, well, but that's
I guess, yeah. I see the logic.
Mm-hmm. As has been the case for the last little while, we are aiming to try and at least put something up twice a month. This is our quota episode, so we've accomplished it for March. But we'll try and be a little bit. We'll try and put things up as often as we could. In any event, well, first of all, life does suck once in a while. In any event, give us a subscribe, like, or follow on any of the platforms we're on, the ones we just listed, so you can be notified whenever we put up something new. Also, a quick reminder, if you have a Spotify account, check out the Anime Roundtable playlist for a list of music based on the things mentioned on this show. The theme song is entitled Fubuki Snowstorm by Piko Misaki, which is the title track of her current album. You can check out more of her music at picoinfinity.com or on Facebook at Pico Zen Music. You could have listened to any anime podcast in the world, but you decided to listen to this one, and we really appreciate it. So thanks for listening, and join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.